Welcome to VolleyTalk alongside Mir Sanasin. I'm Elliot Scully. Joining us today, head coach of the Firestone Falcons, Stacey McMillan-Myers. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Elliot?
Doing pretty good. Well, you started off this year a perfect 9-0, and among those wins, you won your home volleyball tournament, the Falcon Fest, for the third year in a row. Walk me through that day winning and just the history of that tournament.
Well, it was a good win for us. We had a good day that day. The boys really started coming together as a team. We had a lot of first year players this year on the squad, so it was really a challenge to start getting them to gel and getting them just to be able to work together and excel together.
That's very interesting. Now, shortly after you headed to a try facing off against St. Charles and then regional rival St. Vincent St. Mary, you pulled off a five-set win against the Irish before falling to the Cardinals in a tight three sets. What was that try against some of the best competition in Division Two like?
It was probably one of the funnest days of the season. I love good competition. We really saw the growth in the boys during that time. When we played St. V on that day, it was really huge for us because we started off behind and was able to pull a reverse sweep there, and it just was a testimony to the team's grit and tenacity and desire to fight and want to win. Unfortunately, during that match, our top player got injured, so he wasn't able to play in the match against St. Charles on that day, and that kind of got to us mentally a little bit, but I was pleased with the boys on that day. It was a great day for all of us.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a great day. You're able to get the victory against the regional rival STVM, but they got the revenge just 5 days later, handing you a loss in four sets. What
Hmm.
went wrong that time around?
That time around, I think their defense was really hot that day. I mean, it was hard for us to put anything down on that day. And I feel that we were really short on our defensive scheme ourselves. So I really think that was a big part of it.
Well, then you traveled to the Polar Bear Bash, which is hosted at Jackson High School, and you played well against some tough D1 Cleveland competition, but end result probably wasn't ideal. What was your experience that day at Jackson?
That day it was pretty much a whirlwind. We were up and down mentally. We had our top player coming back off an injury. We're trying to work him back into the game, trying to get everybody's spirits back up on top and focus on what our goals were to be able to do this season. So that day was a challenge for us. It was a big challenge for us.
Well, you've come from those challenges and you go into the playoffs with a sweep of Steel before an incredible victory over Walsh Jesuit in four sets after they swept you days before. What was that environment like, especially when you have that home playoff environment in front of your fans?
It was high energy on that night. It was a great match from both teams. It was the energy in the room was incredible. It felt like a championship atmosphere that night
Nice.
from both sides. And it was just a joy to watch. I love to see the growth of this sport that's happening right now. And that was a really competitive match from beginning to end.
Absolutely. Now, you talked about the growth. There's been a lot of changes, especially over the past few years with OHSA taking over and sanctioning boys volleyball. You're one of the teams that moved down from Division One to Division Two this year, and you joined Mount Vernon in having a shot to knock off a perennial contender in some of these regions in the regional final. Mount Vernon takes on St. Charles. You guys have a rubber match against St. Vincent St. Mary. What will it take this time to beat the Irish?
I think this time it's going to take us being consistent with our game plan and consistent with our play out there. And I think that we come in with the right mindset. I think it will really turn out in our favor.
Gotta tell you, it's tough not to look ahead and look that in the state semifinal, you're likely going to see the juggernaut Archbishop McNicholas, 22-1 on the year, handle just about everybody. Have you strategized at all? Do you look ahead at all on what you need to do to beat them?
We've looked ahead a little bit, but we're trying to get the boys to focus in on this step, one step at a time.
Sure.
But as coaches, we've been looking ahead. That's going to be quite the challenge.
Quite the challenge indeed. Well, you get to coach your son, Elijah, helped to get your video turned on before we started. He's had a great year, regional player of the year at least, and you won Coach Achievement Award in the region. How special is that, the bond to get to coach him and be his mom, and then also find success, both of you?
Uh, I love it. It's one of the biggest blessings in my life to be able to coach him. Um, I'm really proud of his growth and his focus because he's been grinding at this for quite a while. And to see him grow and improve and become a leader and just, it's just phenomenal for me to watch and a pleasure for me to watch. I really would prefer not to be his coach because I would rather be up in the stands, being able to cheer for him and say, "That's my son, that's my son." But I get to do that during club season, so
Sure, there you go.
it balances out. But yeah,
Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on. Good luck this Saturday against St. Vincent St. Mary. Seems like you're building a great thing over at Firestone.
thank you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that was Stacey McMillan-Myers. We are deep into the playoffs now. 8 teams left in either division. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Primetime volleyball tonight. That was something I just kind of sprung up on us. Like usually, I mean, we have GCL Fridays and all that, but it just so happened Elder Muller's rescheduled for Thursday night, and it's the only match on Thursday night. It's like, man, hey, throw it on a TV, get some pizza. It was a really fun time.
No, it certainly was too. And again, you talk about GCL, it's hard to find standalone games. I mean, especially
Yeah,
with so
yeah,
much competition across Ohio. The only game that really comes to mind for me is Derby and Beaver Creek with that matchup they have on Good Friday every year. But
yeah.
it's really nice and a really good game overall. We'll talk about Elder's victory down the way on this episode, but really, really good match and a lot to talk about.
All right, we're gonna use the max prep bracket now. I like to look a little bit more, and we can see everything in one, so I like it. First off, I mean, come on, man, Region One, Gahanna Lincoln upsets Olentangy Berlin. Technically not on seeding, but in terms of our rankings, upsets Olentangy Berlin 3-1 to advance to the regional final. New Albany upsets Pickerington North in 5 sets to get to the regional final. I mean, hey, like you have to applaud that. Like that is incredible. I don't think we've ever seen like a region just get flipped on its head that much. I mean, we've been saying all year it's pick North and Berlin. It's pick North and Berlin. Before this, it's pick North and Berlin. I don't care how it's seeded. It's pick North and Berlin. These are the best teams. They played the best competition. They beat the best. They're going to be in the regional final. And both get upset. That's incredible. Honestly, I heard Gahanna Lincoln upset Berlin in four. I was like, yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't, maybe didn't call that, but that doesn't really surprise me. And then I also hear, hey, New Albany Pick North are in the fifth set right now. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Like that's crazy. I mean, as much crap as we gave Pick North about scheduling light, they're still a great team. And New Albany just went five with Westerville North. And I mean, I don't know. And I know Pickerington North started off their run with a 5 set win over Westerville Central, but I thought Jordan Dyer wasn't playing for a couple sets. He seemed like he was battling some kind of injury. Like it was a fluke, whatever. They got past it. Now they're back on track. But no, 6 seed New Albany comes in and they're playing in a regional final to go to a state final four. I think they touched our number 10 once, like week two. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, it certainly is. And again, the only thing that I can think of is Region 8 a couple years ago where we saw a number 6 Baden take on a number 5 McNick in the final. But then again, we knew that that region was going to be chaos. We know that Fenwick, the first seed, down to Roger Bacon, and all the seeds over there all had a legit chance because we knew that that region was going to be a free-for-all. It was a similar situation here, but in the back of my mind, as well as yours, Elliot, we knew it was either going to be Berlin or Pick North. So I'm not surprised that either one of those two teams don't make it to the state tournament. The thing that surprised me is when it happens
Yeah.
because Berlin schedules really well. And, that was the one thing with me putting Gahanna Lincoln in the top 10, where I was saying, well, they're not scheduling that high. That loss to Pick North, how much does that haunt them compared to the rest of their schedule? And then they pull this off, and all of a sudden, Lincoln, if we were to do rankings today, easily in the top 10. You could even make an argument for New Albany after beating Pick North. That is a true stunner overall. I don't think any of us had that on our bigger card for both of those teams, Berlin and Pick North, to miss. And again, that's why we like playoff volleyball. It's unexpected, it's surprising, and it brings a lot of joy to a lot of people.
Yeah, no, look, the fact is, you expect maybe, okay, one of them gets upset, right? But both of them get upset. That's the crazy thing. So it's Gahanna Lincoln or New Albany to go to a regional final. I don't know. This is a tough one, and I really, I don't know. I think this could be a battle, but I'm guessing Gahanna Lincoln's going to have the edge here. I mean, yeah, they handled Berlin pretty good. Like that's impressive. I like Gahanna Lincoln to go to state.
I mean, we're always looking for teams that are peaking at the right moment, especially at this time of year. And this is a Gahanna Lincoln side that has won their last three, and they've got towards this point, and they've really earned to be at this point. And this will be their third matchup against New Albany this season. They beat New Albany on the road in five on April Fool's Day, and then they beat them at home in four sets. It's tough to beat a team three times. However, knowing how this Lincoln team is coming off a great win against Berlin, one of the two teams that we had in the finals, and I believe I had them going to the state tournament. This is a Lincoln side with a lot of momentum. I think they advance to the state tournament, but I think it might be an extra set battle. So give it in four or five, I'd say.
Now in Region 2, look at the top. I mean, St. Ignatius versus Stone Monroe Falls. Rematch of that very first Friday night match of the season. I think, there's no real debate here. When St. Ignatius comes out and wins 25-12, you kind of know how the night's going to go.
What a season they've had, trying to keep it alive. But Schaefer calls ball game. Cats take the third, 25-16.
They move on in a clean sweep to the regional final. No surprise there. Hudson and Jackson. I mean, we've talked a bit about Jackson this year. Hudson, we've really not. And that was a great five-set battle. Every other set, nobody really went up. There was no momentum shift. It was just, hey, two great teams battling it out. And, credit to Hudson that we didn't have them coming out doing anything, but they upset St. Edward and they gave Jackson a really great battle, almost beat him. So credit to Larry Meehan and his crew. But Jackson gets it done in five sets, comes out to play St. Ignatius. Now, this is a little bit interesting. Jackson is like the one team in the North that we've seen give Ignatius a little bit of trouble this year. That being said, I don't think that St. Ignatius in the playoffs, when they're fired up in a regional final, is going to drop this. I like St. Ignatius to go to state.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, Jackson did take a set off of St. Ignatius when those two met at the Cats' place, but then again, that was a very interesting set. It was very close, and there were a lot of mistakes on both sides, a lot of out-of-system volleyball in that game. But I see the Wildcats once again making it to the state tournament. But you take a look at the rest of that bracket. Again, Ignatius truly the number one seed, but Hudson as well. Let's not overstate this. They are a really good team, and they had a really tough battle when they faced a Brunswick side that they lost to earlier this year. Then they go on the road at St. Ed's, give them a five-set battle, and come out victorious. Came up short against Jackson, but you take a look at this roster, it is all underclassmen, minus one senior, Cooper Lewis, who's a middle. Outside of that, the rest of your team is coming back for next year.
Yeah.
Hudson is going to give St. Ignatius and at that point a senior Jack Reagan an absolute battle. So be prepared for this Hudson team to continue to be on the uptick going into next year. But that being said, St. Ignatius, in my opinion, will still be Region 2 champs.
Over on the other side of the bracket, first we'll start off with Region 3. So Dublin Jerome gets it done in a five-set thriller over Upper Arlington. Fends off the reverse sweep to move on. Davidson beats Beaver Creek in four. Doesn't really surprise me, even though it was technically an upset. And then Davidson gets the clean sweep over Jerome, albeit pretty dang close to get to play Thomas in the regional final. And this kind of confirms what I thought. I thought with Ryan Monahan healthy that Davidson was going to come out as one of the two best teams in the region. On the other side, no really surprise, Thomas Worthington over Middletown. Fairmont gets it done over Kilbourne in four sets, and then Thomas Worthington fairly easily over Fairmont to get back to the regional final. So it's going to be Davidson and Thomas Worthington. Two teams that, that they're Really good teams. Both have very solid outsides. JT McGuire for Thomas will probably end up being first team All-State Regional Player of the Year. Ryan Monahan, had he not been injured or sick, certainly of that caliber. So yeah, that should be a great battle. I like Thomas to come out and make it to state.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you take a look at the board right now. There's three clear state contenders. It's Thomas Worthington, St. X, and St. Ignatius. You could throw Elder in there based off their results and knowing that they beat the Bombers earlier this year. But this is Thomas Worthington's region. You can see from the bracket on the left side of your screen. The highest seed in Thomas Worthington's quadrant was the fifth seed at Fairmont. Everybody else wanted to go to the other side because of how dominant this Thomas Worthington side is. And credit to Davidson as well. Had to go on the road against Beaver Creek. Also had to beat Centerville as well, a nine seed. And the GWOC has made a little bit of noise this year and then got a really big win against Jerome, who, again, I was wrong in this, but said that they would beat Davidson in that regional semifinal matchup. But nonetheless, I think that Thomas Worthington will advance. I think it might happen in a sweep. I could be wrong on that. It could go to four sets, but I think the Cardinals get it done, and more importantly, they're on at the state tournament.
And in the South, Region 4, we had St. X over Lakota East very easily. I think Grant Simer didn't end up playing, or maybe some other people for Lakota East. So I don't know that it would have been competitive otherwise. But St. X easily over Lakota East to get to the regional final.
Evans set outside to Joe. Joe tipped over, kept alive. And that will be ball game here in the Burning Gym. The Bombers take this third set 25-19.
And Thursday night volleyball. I mean, this was so cool. I mean, really just so cool. Elder comes out in a sweep. 25-15 makes a statement. Moeller almost gets it done in the second, but then Elder comes back, snaps it away. And once you go up 2-0, it is tough. At the pit, it is tough to want anything but an Elder sweep.
Tommy Tierney back to serve here. This is not something you want if you're a Crusader fan. Tommy Tierney with the top spin. Up by Kelly. Set by Tierman. Bennett brought down by Braden Brand! Wow, what a play there. Ball was set a bit too far. Brand able to go up and get that one. He floated up to that ball and put it down. What a game for the Panthers here.
So Elder gets it done in 3 sets. We'll play St. X. Now you'll recall, for the historians out there, Elder is the lone loss from an Ohio team to St. X this year. And I will say, as good as St. X has been this year, number one in the state, swept their way through the Elite Eight, won the GCL, they are not last year's team. Do not get that twisted. Even though they maybe had potentially a more dominant season by the numbers. Last year's St. X team, I said, hey, there's like the regional final was a freaking formality. GCL matches were a formality. They went and they won, and it was like no problem. This I think St. X is a favorite for sure, but it is not going to be easy by any means. Elder's going to put up a great fight. That being said, we've called it since the beginning of the year. I think it's going to be Thomas Ignatius X in the state tournaments. I like St. X to move on.
It's so interesting when you take a look at that region, and you hit it right on the nail, right? That four seed, one seed matchup, which was Lakota East against St. X this year, again, the one seed kind of waltzes their way to the state tournament, and then the third seed versus the two seed is essentially speaking a state semifinal. And knowing where both Elder and Moeller were in our rankings, it kind of had that same vibe today. It was just two teams going back and forth. You know, the pit was rocking. Elder brought their fans. Moeller brought theirs. But I think Elder just came out and really set the tone early. They have a lot of great options, including Baden Brandt, who got the game-winning block. Tommy Tierney, again, running the ship. 6-foot outside hitter. So a little bit shorter, but he's able to get kills. He's able to get points when it matters. And he's going to be going up against a St. X side. And, you know, it's so interesting because I remember talking to Tommy when he was a freshman and back in 2022, and that Elder side again, really, really good. They beat St. X, but you know that for that game, us ESPX commentators, Anthony France and I were on Elder News Network. We were calling the game with
I remember
Elder's
that.
commentators
I was watching that
because
live. Remember that?
yeah,
That's cool.
because of all of the space there. We brought on Tommy Tierney in the third set, and you know, we were talking to him about different situations. Elder was up 2-0 at that point, and it seemed like from the conversations that we had with him, He's a really good guy. He really cares about his craft. And again, knowing that his dad has been running the team for a very long time, he's grown up with this team, he's grown up with this program. It means a lot for Elder to get to this point and face St. X. It's so interesting when you take a look at all these different matchups. The second seed going up against St. X, who's the first seed. So I was doing a little research about this. So Elder's point differential, they won this game today, 25-15, 25-23, 25-17. So 20 points, 20-point differential. We don't know what's going to happen. But Moeller beat LaSalle by 22 points, if you will, then got swept by St. X. In 2023, Moeller beat Sycamore by 23 points and then beat St. X in a five-set thriller. Point differential went their way at +4 point differential. So again, it's a bunch of numbers. It's kind of interesting when you take a look at it, but this is a St. X side that has a lot. And I think we've talked about that from the 2023 class with Bentley Meyer, 2024 with the Berkemeyer twins, 2025, it's the same way with a lot of these key players, including Matt Schulte, and then obviously Joe Taggart on the outside, another great guy in the state of Ohio. It's going to be an interesting battle. I think it will go to extra sets. I'm going to say four right now, but give me the Bombers to advance.
So if we're correct in our predictions, it'll be Thomas Worthington versus Gahanna Lincoln in the state semifinal, and then St. Ignatius versus St. Xavier in the state semifinal. The only thing I don't like about this year, we've got D1 first and then D2, which is not that big a deal in the semifinal days, but then it means we go into Saturday, watch the championship, we do the D1 championship, it's like the season's over. Oh yeah, we still got D2. It's like it just doesn't make as much sense, but they rotate. I suppose when you have like seven divisions with the girls, it makes more sense to rotate,
Yeah.
but all right, and in Division Two. First off, St. Charles gets the win over St. Francis de Sales in four. And then Mount Vernon takes down Bishop Watterson in four sets. So we called that one. Mount Vernon peaks at the right time. Bishop Watterson just can't get it done. And so it's St. Charles versus Mount Vernon. St. Charles went to the state championship last year, lost in a five to McNick team, a great McNick team last year. Of course, we'll get to them this year. Mount Vernon dropped it down from D1. Started off the year with a great four-set win over Darby, who at the time we thought was going to be very good. Turned out not quite as good as we thought. Still, made a statement on opening night, dropping down, and they've had a great year coming into D2. So they've got a legit shot to knock off St. Charles. I like the Cardinals to come out, though. I think the Mount Vernon train stops now. I think the Cardinals get it done.
I agree with you. And Mount Vernon, we've talked about them dropping from Division One to Division Two, and even though they've done that, they've played a lot of Division One competition, and it's led to some interesting play. 15-10 right now, but you take a look at their play in Division Two, not too many losses, and they've picked up some big wins, including against Watterson multiple times this season. They were able to beat St. Charles as well in five on April 4th, but then lost the following week in three sets at home. So in ways, this is going to be a rubber match. This is also going to be a neutral site game at Upper Arlington, so it should be interesting. But then again, you can't go wrong with what Ned Gruber and crew are doing in Columbus at St. Charles, giving the Cardinals to advance.
They know how to win. He's led them to a state championship before. Now in Region 6, we just talked to Coach McMillan-Myers at Firestone. So St. Vince St. Mary gets it done over Roosevelt in three sets. Firestone over Walsh Jesuit in four sets, despite losing them very recently in the regular season. So that's well done by them. So it'll be the one versus the two in the regional final. What we predicted from the start, although that regular season loss at the end sure threw a wrench in things. Sam and St. Mary, such a consistent team. They've been in the state tournament, I believe, 3 years in a row, counting now. So that I mean, they've got all the momentum. And Firestone, although they're dropping down from D1, got some great players. I just think that the volleyball IQ of St. Vincent St. Mary is going to get it done. The consistency, I think St. Vincent St. Mary goes to state.
I mean, we've talked about this consistency throughout the entire time since OHSA has sanctioned boys volleyball, that St. Vincent St. Mary has been that one team that's been ready for the spotlight. They've been ready to lead the region in ways. And even though they did have those losses to Firestone, and they've lost to Hoban a few times in the past few years, not this year. It's St. Vincent St. Mary's world when you're talking about that region. Not too many losses in region and not too many losses out of region too. They've done really well against some of these Region 2 foes, most recently against St. Ed's, even though they lost that in five. So this is a St. Vincent St. Mary's team that's ready. A lot of these players have seen the Wittenberg stage before in 2023 and 2024. Some of these guys, including Mason Winters, going at it for the last time. And I think he'll be back there one last time before graduation. Give me the Irish to advance to the state tournament.
Now in Region 7, we got Nordonia takes down Chardon, who's always a competitive team in that region. Despite being a 6 seed, they get to the semifinal. Nordonia takes care of them in 4. And then Berkshire takes down VASJ in this clean sweep. So got Nordonia and Berkshire in the regional final. On this one, give me Nordonia. I like the 1 seed to just keep it rolling, get back and get to state for the first time in program history.
I agree. And again, it kind of gives a little bit of structure to that region after Independence has, really flipped it on its head. Been a lot of parity over the past few years where it's either Independence or Chardon. Either one of them is a 4 seed, one of them is a 5 seed, but no monkeying around this year. It's been Nordonia that's really set the pace. 19-6 this season, going up against a Berkshire side that's 16-6. So it will be an interesting matchup. Um, it was Nordonia winning on May 3rd when these two faced off. It was a two-set win. It was only two sets were played in that one. It was part of a tournament. So we'll get a full best of five matchup for this game, and I think Nordonia is going to do it.
I will say, just a side note, I don't know that I love all these tournaments in the regular season. I kind of like California does it where they play 2 day tournaments all the time, or they're playing like 5 matches in a day, like best of 3, but still, I don't know. I like how we do it. Like we have like Centerville Elite Eight, or like if you don't go to that, like you go to Polar Bear Bash or something, like one tournament, like whatever. That's fine. Like one 3 match tournament. I don't know that I love all these tournaments. I like the regular season, like one-off matches a little bit more, but that's just my opinion. And then finally, Region 8. McNick takes down Taylor 3-0. Kind of saw that coming. Loveland, man, I mean, they just keep it rolling. They start off, they upset, well, not upset, but in terms of seeding, but they have a great win over Archbishop Alter in 4 sets. And then Roger Bacon, they pull the upset in 5 over Bishop Fenwick, the 2 seed, the team that I thought if there's anyone that can knock off McNick, it's going to be them. Roger Bacon takes care of them. And you know what? Loveland turns around and sweeps them when they're riding that momentum. So it's going to be McNick versus Loveland in the regional final. And as good of a run as Loveland is having, well, we say juggernaut for a reason. I don't think there's any way McNick not only doesn't lose, I think there's no way they drop a set. I like McNick to go to state.
It's been the telltale sign of this McNick squad. This is a team that, surprised a lot of people, made it to the state tournament in 2023. Even 2024, going into that state final, they were the underdogs against St. Charles,
Oh yeah.
hypothetically speaking, and they were able to pull off that win. They only lose Bryce Dillard in the offseason, and again, 22-1. Their only loss to St. X, who is one of the favorites to win the Division One title this year, is just an absolutely insane run. Now, Loveland did take a set off of McNick on May 8th, a 4-set win for the Rockets. The set that the Tigers won was in the second, 25-22. So we could see Loveland take another set, but I don't think it's going to happen. Give me McNick to sweep.
Okay, do me a favor, read the set scores of that match.
14, or if we're taking it from a McNick win,
Sure.
25-20 or 25-14, 22-25, 25-16, 26-24.
Okay, hey, so that's fairly competitive, but I don't know. I feel like the 25-14, 25-16, like I feel like this Big Nick team could take care of him. I don't know. Maybe it's not a sweep. Maybe Love can pull a set. We'll see. That being said, if we're looking at our predictions, if we're correct, it'd be Archbishop McNicholas versus St. Vincent St. Mary in a state semifinal, and then it would be Nordonia against St. Charles in a state semifinal. All right, it's been Ohio Volley Talk. Here, any final thoughts?
Regional finals are always great because you get to see your team relatively close towards your city or where your high school is, and it's always exciting because you see state and you want to get to state, right? And when I was calling the Bombers, St. X didn't get there, obviously. They fell in the regional final, so it felt like state was kind of that thing that was just out of reach. And now, obviously, since COVID, and since those years actually, they've done a better job. They're able to get to it. So state's important, right? State is the biggest part of the year, and you don't get there unless you go through the regional finals. It's always great. And again, a lot of great teams that are trying to represent their region and represent their parts of the state.
Yeah, definitely looking at McNick to win it this year in D2, but D1, it feels wide open. I mean, even though we talk about X number one, keep telling people like they got to go through Elder and they got to go through like Ignatius or Jackson, then they got to go through a bunch of other teams. It's going to be a competitive year. I'm excited. But we got to get through Saturday first, regional finals. Looking forward to it. With that being said, this has been Ohio VolleyTalk, and we will catch you next week.